fucks left. No, no. I have no fucks, right? Oh, oh. I have no fucks left. No, no. So fuck off. I'm busy. Bye bye. Piss off. Not sorry. Don't cry.
But there's some good in this world, Mr. Frodo. And it's worth fighting for.
I have no fucks left. No, no. I have no fucks, right?
Greetings, salutations, one and all. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode of No Fucks Left with Landyn Shaw. That is me. She is I am her. How's everyone doing today? Wow, we've had a week since the last time we got together, and I'm just going to go right into it. I'm going to start with the word of the day because that's very important to this episode. And then I'm going to launch into a kind of stream of consciousness monologue once again, but this one is very well thought out. And I'm going to kind of give you a call to action or some orders, if you will, or directions of what I would like for you all to do for me. So let's get to the word of the day first. Yep, there it is. There's the theme song, the lovely theme song. And the word of the day today is a good one. And it's one that I think is really important, and one that I feel many people in my community, trans, intersex, non-binary community, show on a daily basis. And that is courage. Courage. That's the word of the day. I show a lot of courage every day. And I didn't think I was a really courageous person up until, really about 13 months ago when I started this transformation. I kind of thought, oh, this is courageous what I'm doing, but I didn't necessarily think I was courageous. And when I did come out, and my friends and people in my world, when they, said, oh, you're so brave, I kind of just took it for granted. And now living in this Donald Trump nightmare that I've been living in, I do feel courageous. Yeah, I do. It takes a lot to get up each day right now. I'll be honest with you. So the word of the day is courage. And you know what to do, all you lovely members of the No Fucks Left pod community. If you hear that word at any point during the show, I want you to yell, I want you to scream, dance, get excited, show everyone you're proud to be a part of this amazing community, the No Fucks Left community. And the word of the day is courage. All right, so as I said, today's monologue is going to be a little different. It's just going to be a monologue that has a lot of pieces to it and a lot of thoughts that I have been ruminating on. And to be fully transparent, I actually recorded my monologue for the first time like a day before I was going to release. I had every intention always when I started this podcast of, one, not having to edit it myself, and now I have to, and two, trying to have everything done and kind of very meticulous. Like, I love routine. But then I started to realize that as I was sharing with my audience my life and what was happening, it seemed that I needed the kind of news stories to pile up. And so I could prepare a monologue and prepare thoughts that were timely. And so yesterday I thought, well, nothing really that gigantic will happen between last night and today. Well, welcome to Donald Trump's America. Fucking new things and horrible things happen every hour. So I'm a fool. I now have to pretty much resign myself to saying I'm going to record the monologue pretty much every Thursday before I release each Friday. And so that is this. But I have a call to action for you all before I start this, which is I want you to share this episode, this specific episode, with everyone in your life. I want you to share it with people that voted for Trump. I want you to share it with people that voted for Kamala. I want you to share it with people that didn't vote. I want you to share it with your elder grandparents and friends and family in your life. I want you to truly, please do me a favor. one human being to another. Share this with everyone because this is very, very important. All right. I'm going to outline several things in this episode. I'm going to share a lot, personally. And I think the only way that my community, the trans and intersex community, are going to be able to get through this is with your help. We need allies. We need allies to be vocal. We need allies to be strong and loud and forceful. We need allies to call their politicians, etc., at a state, local, and federal level. We need help. We need help. So I want to start with this, and I'm going to share this right off the bat. And I want you to think about this as you listen to the rest of this episode. As of February 26, 2025, the ACLU was tracking 456 anti-LGBTQ bills in state legislators. 456. And on the federal level, we already know about all the executive orders. Granted, I know they're not laws. They're not actionable yet, but it obviously is going to lead to that. And just today, I was invited to write a letter to my representatives about the Title IX laws, because it is now going before the Senate to vote on a bill that will ban transgender athletes from sports. So you have that happening on the federal level, along with, it was announced today that they are going to now ban transgender, non-binary, intersex members of our military, active members, which there are a lot. They're going to ban those fine, amazing human beings from being in our military. Okay. And then I just want to share this last thing with you, because this, just gives you a snapshot of what's happening. In Iowa, this was a headline. Iowa gives final approval to a bill removing gender identification protections despite massive protests. So here's where we're going to start. We're going to start with the politicians, okay? Politicians. Now, you remember your civics classes and your history classes where you were taught that politicians and your elected representatives were supposed to gather in a Congress in DC or in your state capital, and they were supposed to represent the people. They were representing the people, the voice of the people. They were empowered to do the people's work and do the people's will. So when these constituents come out and they let their politicians know what their thoughts are, and they crowd in at the town halls and they let everyone know how they feel, the politicians are supposed to take that into account. And they're supposed to, process all of this and either talk to their people directly and explain why they're going to vote a certain way, or take those thoughts with them as they vote and continue to represent the people. Okay? And I do believe that at one point that did happen. Maybe way long ago, when all of this started, but I do believe at one point that did happen. But as I've discussed on this podcast before, then money got into there, and then greed, and then obviously corruption and power and all this other stuff. And then it became like, we can actually do kind of both. We can ask our people what we want, and we can kind of give them a little here, and then we can, do what we want over here. And as long as we get reelected, that's the most important thing. As long as we get reelected, we're fine. And that's what led to then career politicians, which I have a huge problem with. I don't think that should exist in any way, shape, or form. That spells nothing but trouble. So, our politicians, our elected representatives, they take an oath to the Constitution. If they believe in God, they put their hand on a stack of Bibles or on a Bible, and they swear to God that they will think of us, that they will take care of us, that they will always do the right thing, and that they will always honor the democracy and the model and the idea of what this entire thing is all supposed to be about. That's what they pledge allegiance to. They don't pledge allegiance at any time, nor has anyone ever done this, to a person or to a thought or to a belief or a movement. I think it is absolutely fucking ridiculous that I see on the Oval desk or in the Oval Office at the president's desk. God, I am so angry. I'm sorry. I am really just shaking. I think it's ridiculous to see on the Resolute desk in the Oval Office a bunch of fucking hats that are being handed out and thrown out to people like they're at a baseball game. Or a bunch of people leaving the White House as they did today, holding binders up to cameras, being like, look, we got access. Look at us. And then we got a free hat. And we got some autographs. Like, are you fucking kidding me? But that's not what I'm mad about. Here's what I'm mad about. Politicians, all politicians, Democrat, Republican, Independent, everyone in between. You're forgetting one key thing about all of this, that we're human beings. There is a humanity here. There is living, breathing human beings. And I got news for you. You are no more important. You are no greater. You are no better than anyone else. So what gives you the fucking right to be able to go on camera or go in the halls of Congress and spew such hateful rhetoric and willingly vote against the rights of other human beings? Where do you get that right? Who empowered you with that? Are you even taking your job seriously? I mean, you're supposed to look out for all your people, all of them, all your constituents, regardless of their religion, race, how they identify. You're supposed to be there for them. And I got news for you. Most of you are not. Most of you are not. And so I think you all need to be fired. And I do think that the people need to take back their government. And so that's the campaign I'm going to be on. Because here's what I think. Even in a perfect world, let's say we make it through the next 4 years somehow, God willing, it's still going to be a massive shit show at the end. No matter how this thing goes as we proceed, there's going to be pain, there's going to be destruction, there's going to be huge losses in many, many different facets here. And I'm not going to get into all the specifics. You read, you hear, you know. Like, you know, they're taking away Medicaid. They're going after senior citizens. They're hurting senior citizens. Basically, when all is said and done, I can sum it up like this. Unless you're a white male Republican, you're pretty much going to get hurt by anything that is happening right now. And if you don't believe that, I am very, very sorry for you. I really am. I really am. If you believe somehow you're going to be fine because you voted for him, because you're part of MAGA, I feel really bad for you. And that part is coming up next. But let me just start with the politicians. Like I said, politicians, all of you, you need to basically be fired. And we need to really get in there and get back to basics. And what I mean by that is this. I listened to someone talking about politicians last week, and they were running for Senate. And they said that their job, running for Senate, is to fundraise and make anywhere from around $10,000 to $15,000 a day. So when you wonder, hey, what are our politicians up to? How come they're not doing town halls? How come they're not engaging with the community? It's because they're fundraising. It's because they're worrying already about the next election. They don't have time for you. They're worried about their own interest, their own family, making sure that they get to carry on their great health insurance, making sure they get to carry on their amazing pension. But all the while, they're doing that while they step on your backs. All the while, they do that while they talk out of one side and then talk out of the other and just try to make everyone happy. They try to make the donors really happy and give them what they want because, again, they have to raise $10,000 to $15,000 a day to have their seat in the next election. And then they tell the people, oh, I'm really sorry. Yes. Oh, whatever. Nice little letters, correspondence. Please vote for me, because again, they need the people to make that happen. And then along the way, what happened was Republicans got really nervous, because when all is said and done, most of us, the majority of us, really do have the values and principles of, I'm not going to say a liberal movement, but a democratic movement. Let's just put it like that. I'm going to take the word liberal out. I'm going to take anything socialist, whatever. Democrats, democratic. Many of us can get in line with democratic values. And you know what those values are? I'll be really simple. Treat people decently. Treat human beings like human beings. Period. End of discussion. That is the core tenet of the Democratic Party. And I think it's also the core tenet of what a democracy is. A democracy works when everyone looks out for everyone else. When no one person or one party or one group of people has more power or more say or is looked at as being greater than anyone else. And again, we can go on forever about how that has never really been part of the model of our democracy. And you're absolutely right. Like, this has never been perfect. Never. But it has come a long way. I'm living proof. 10 years ago, I never would have come out as being intersex or trans. There was reasons why I didn't. I don't have to tell you. You can listen to other episodes and you'll hear me explain in very full detail why I didn't come out sooner. I came out when I did because I saw progress. I know it's not perfect, but we're still relatively a young democracy in the grand scheme of things, which is why things are so fucking fragile right now. And so I look at the wins and I look at the success and I look at how far we have come. And then I work at trying to make it better. And so the Democratic Party, in its essence, in its core, has put human beings first. The Republican Party, very clearly, and this is not just an opinion, this is fact, have put big businesses first, have put millionaires and billionaires and corporations first. I mean, that's why they literally wanted corporations to be able to invest in elections. That's why they fought so hard for all this stuff. They've only been after one thing: money, acclaim, power, corporations, special interests, lobbyists, etc. And then sadly, along the way, the Democrats kind of looked over at the Republicans, their colleagues, and went, hey, wait a minute. Why is so-and-so have a boat? Why is so-and-so getting invited to all these things? Why is so-and-so a millionaire after they're out of office? Or why are they retiring and still becoming a millionaire or becoming a president at a university? And so they wanted it, right? I mean, it's human nature. You only want what you see others that are, basically equal to you, i.e. your colleagues. You see what they get and you're like, hey, I want that. And so some Democrats along the way lost their way. And we know who those are. But I'm telling you right now, all of them have lost their way. All of them have lied. All of them have deceived. I think the Democratic Party is really letting us down right now, big time. All they do is go up in the House session or in Senate on camera, and they put up their little chart and they try to show everyone in a very calm, nice, deliberate way how what is happening is wrong. They blow up their little, I swear to God, they spend more money on foam core and charts and special props than they do on actually crafting a real honest to God argument. So I'm just here to say this. The people want their country back. I know that. I can see that. It's very clear. And we want it back at every level. We want things to be fair across the board. And it's not. And so even if we get through this, even once we get hopefully MAGA out of here and we kind of get back on track, there's still going to have to be a lot of work because many people are hurting. That's clear. And so now I'm going to give a shout out, honestly, and this could be controversial and I don't fucking care at this point. I'm going to give a shout out to those that voted for Trump. All right. And for the most part, most of you, I'm going to say this. I think you lost your way. I think you fell into echo chambers and silos where you were getting information and, because of algorithms and because of news networks and media and the fact that human beings are trusting. We're inherently trusting. We really are. We want to always think that someone's giving us the straight dirt. We want to believe people are being honest with us. We do, for the most part. And so I believe the Republicans, the MAGA extremists, the MAGA extremists there's truly, that's a whole nother kettle of fish, as they say. And we have Democratic extremists. I know we do. So I'm saying the core Republican Party, those of you who have been lifelong conservatives, you voted for Ronald Reagan, you voted for Bush, you voted for Romney, you want government to be smaller, you want government to look out for you, you like the fiscal hawkish nature of what the Conservative Party is. I'm talking to you now. You got duped. And that's horrible. No one likes to feel like they got duped. No one likes to feel they got taken advantage of. I know that. And so I'm sitting here as a 51-year-old intersex trans female saying, I'm going to give you space for grace. I want to talk to you. I want to have a civil discussion with you. And I want to figure out how collectively, we can make things better. Because it's not going to happen if we keep staying on opposite sides and we stay in these teams. It's not. It's going to be constant back and forth. It's going to be my party's better than yours. Big election. Okay, whatever party's in office, the other party's going to hate that. And they're going to feel like nothing's being done for them. And it's just going to keep going. And there's no way that we will evolve. No way. So I am telling you right now, I'm using my TikTok platform. I'm using my podcast platform. I'm using social media to say, come, let's talk. Let's figure out what it is collectively that we need from our government and what we deserve and what we need to fix. And then let's fix it together. We can have different ideologies. We can have different beliefs and philosophies about things like that. That's fine. That's supposed to be a part of the fabric of our society and our democracy, civil discourse, kind of keeping each other in line, kind of calling out each other and challenging each other and working through things. That's how all of this works. It does not work when small little groups of marginalized communities, not even little, but let's just pretend, marginalized communities are cast aside, treated differently. And then on top of that, you then take larger macro sections of people, i.e. Democrats, Republicans, Independents, and you then pit them against each other as well. What happens in that situation is exactly what we are fucking dealing with now, which is a whole group of people, i.e. politicians, billionaires, corporations, are sitting there laughing at watching all of us basically be their pawns and going after each other instead of seeing the big picture, instead of seeing that there are tax cuts going for them that are going to hurt all of us, whether you're a Republican and whether you're a Democrat. Everyone is on Medicaid in both parties. Everyone in both parties gets benefits because of SNAP. Everyone in both parties gets socialized benefits that have been set up by our government to help those who need it most. And that's on both parties. We know that, right? You all know that. There are rural parts of the state where I'm at where I know people benefit from these amazing policies and programs, whether they be farmers, whether they be, on SNAP benefits. They use vouchers to be able to get things like diapers because they're too expensive. Like, everyone benefits from that. And so when your government especially the people that you voted for. Because remember, I'm talking to you guys. When that happens and they just forget about you and they leave you cold and they take away federal jobs and that ends up hitting you directly, you or your loved ones or your family, do you think they care? No, they got your vote. They're done. They took what they needed from you and now they're moving on. And then their hope is that 4 years from now, you'll maybe forget or new things will happen and you'll give them the power to do all of this all over again. So aren't you tired of that? I know I am. As a Democrat, I'm tired of that. So let's come together. Let's truly, honestly fucking come together. Let's figure out where we do agree. And I'm sure that we'll agree on many things. We'll agree that life should be better for all of us. We'll agree that our kids, our young adults who are going off and starting a life should be able to afford a home and should be able to afford a family vacation every once in a while and should not have to feel like the government is out to fuck them over every single day before they even get a chance to start their life. I think we can all agree on that. And I think that we can all agree that we should do something about that. And so what I propose is we get together and we have civil discussions and we figure out how we can put the people back in we the people. And how this government and this democracy that's supposed to be for us truly is for us. We have all been disenfranchised. We have all been manipulated. And so I am saying to you, with the utmost confidence and sincerity, I welcome you. I'm creating space for you. I am affording you the grace to come together, putting all the differences aside and figuring out how we can move this country truly forward. Because I do believe, at the end of the day, that you love your country. And I do believe that you want things to work for yourself. And I understand where the messaging got off. And I understand where if you stayed in that vacuum, you felt unheard. You felt not seen. You felt lost. I've felt like that. I feel like that now. And so if you guys were feeling like I am feeling right now during the Biden presidency, I am sorry for you. I really am. And I want to make it better. So I am being the bigger person because you're not going to hear a lot of Democrats or people my age say, "Hey, I'm putting out a hand to you." And it's because I realize that we're never going to get anywhere if we don't do that. And I'm talking about people in my own family. I know I am. I know there are people in my family that voted for that man. And I want them back in my life. I want everyone to just stop fighting. And I want us to get back on track, because right now, the only people that are winning and the only people that are benefiting from any of this are dictators in other countries who are trying to sow discourse and see us be so unstable that that's the time to move in. And so then where will any of us be, huh? We want another world fucking war? Like, I mean, come on. So they're laughing at us. Business, the large tech companies, and especially fucking Elon Musk, which don't even get me started on that. That will be a whole nother episode. But I will say, did you guys really vote for him too? No, you didn't. He wasn't on the ballot. He wasn't a part of this whole dream and everything that you were promised when it came to what you were told during the campaign. He was only a part of it towards the very end. So, like, you've been cheated and you've been lied to when it comes to that. And then because of him, friends and family members of yours that maybe had federal jobs, like in Oklahoma, how I saw this one city that employed more federal workers than any other area in Oklahoma, were now all out of a job. And the report said that the majority of them voted for Trump. You guys didn't sign on for that. I know you didn't. You didn't sign on to vote for him in November, see him get inaugurated in January, and then lose your job by February. You didn't sign on for that. I know you didn't. And I know you're angry. And I feel that anger. I feel for you. I feel for your families. This is the shittiest time of year to have to be unemployed. I've been unemployed pretty much since the pandemic. It's been very difficult in my industry to find jobs. So I can meet you there with what that pain feels like. So let's talk. And let's figure out what things we have in common, what pains we have, where we hurt, and then let's make things better. We've got to work together or they're going to win. And they're going to simply win because they're in power and because they're able to. And because they don't give a fuck who they step on or who they crush as they continue to just line their pockets and rise to power. And you should not have to put up with that. When you cast that vote, it should be sacred and it should be a covenant, basically, between you and the candidate you voted for. And you should get everything that you were promised. You deserve that. I deserve that. We all deserve that. And that's not happening. No matter what Fox News or any of those media interests tell you. And I'll tell you another thing. The reason why he wants to get rid of all these other media companies and the reason why for the first time ever, the White House Correspondents Association is not going to choose what media outlets can be at the press conferences is because he only wants you to continue to get what he puts out. He wants you to just hear what he wants you to hear, i.e. what a dictator does. State media. Because if you don't hear or see the discontent, if you don't hear or see the truth, if you don't hear or see what's really happening, then you don't know about it and you think everything's going fine. And if you are against people like me, the trans and intersex community, and you see us getting our rights taken away and that happens to be something that you believe in, then you're okay. But I'm telling you, you're not. I'm telling you that that party does not care about you and they're not helping you. And I do want to help you. I really do. I want to be a voice and a leader for the people's, coalition. I think we have a lot of work to do and it's going to take all of us. And so now the last part of this is going to be about my community and what I need from all of you. And again, hopefully by now, all of you that I was speaking to earlier, all the Republicans, I hope you're still with me, right? I've shown you kindness and I've put out a hand. I put out an olive branch. And now I want you to hear this, okay? I was born intersex. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about that. There's no speculation. That's not an opinion. That is a fact. It is a scientific fact that on one day I was born, I was assigned female at birth. Less than 24 hours later, I was assigned male at birth. I didn't ask for that. Not at all. I didn't ask to be confused when I was 4 years old and I'm, trying to figure out just what life is and just existing. I didn't ask to suddenly feel like, hey, why every day do I feel like I don't like myself and I don't know who I am and I have this constant sense of not fitting in. And it's not just the typical social things that all kids go through. Like I could go through that and I did and I was fine. It was the sense of just not knowing who you were, not knowing what your purpose was, not knowing how you were supposed to move through the world. And when you did think you had it and you kind of looked at the others like you and went, oh shit, nope, I guess I don't have this. You go off by yourself and you just kind of sit and stew and figure out like, oh, okay, I got to figure out something about myself because I don't like this feeling of not belonging. I don't like this feeling of feeling lost. No one does, right? I mean, we're human beings and life is already difficult enough. We all know that. And we're already dealing with so much coming at us. So I'm here to tell you that on top of living life and dealing with life, I did not choose to be intersex. And I'm glad I didn't choose it, but I'm also very, very glad that I am. It's the greatest thing that ever could have happened to me. It's what makes me even more extraordinary than I already was. And I want you to appreciate that extraordinary aspect and quality of my life. I think that I have a wisdom because I was born intersex. And I have the ability to kind of see both sides of things and I think bridge people together and bring people together. Okay, because of my experience, my personal experience and how I moved through life. So I really want you to sit there and just sit on that idea that I was born like this, okay? And I have a brother who was born with a congenital heart defect. And I remember when he was born, hearing the word birth defect and kind of not knowing what that is. But then when I did figure out what it was and when I had the capacity to understand that fully, I honestly thought, oh, I must have some kind of birth defect too, because I'm constantly going through life feeling this way. And then there were physical things. Like, I will tell you this, and I'll be very honest, and I haven't said this publicly. I have the reproductive organs of both sexes. Okay, so again, that's how I can tell you it is a scientific fact that I was born like this and that I am beyond just male and female. The federal government can tell you all they want and proclaim till the cows come home that there's only two sexes, but that is a flat out lie. Completely. And it's not even like where you stand on science. It is a lie. There are not just two sexes because I am here. I am living proof. I have TikTok. I have social media. Come find me. Look at me. I am not AI. I am a real person. And I am not one sex. I am not the other sex. I am both. So if you're going to sit there and tell me that I don't exist, well, then we're not part of that agreement anymore. And the agreement is that human beings are supposed to treat other human beings with compassion and respect. We're supposed to be there for one another. We're supposed to lend a helping hand whenever we can. And you know what? For the most part, we do that. I've seen the best of us through COVID, through 9/11, through the Oklahoma City bombing, through the Boston bombing, through all these horrific school shootings, and through all these horrific natural disasters, Hurricane Katrina, Superstorm Sandy. And I constantly see the best of humanity in that. So I know we're capable of it. And it's also because I know inherently and instinctually we are born with the desire and need to help one another. None of us want to see another human being get hurt. Unless you're really mentally disturbed or have a lot of psychological issues. But again, I'm talking about the larger majority of people here. I know you are good people. So how can you be okay with a government that has made it their job since day one to tear down my community, to eradicate my community? We already didn't have equality. Let's be honest. We don't have anti-work discriminations. We don't have federal protection laws. So the small little luxuries that we have been blessed with are now being totally taken away. And I get there's many members of my community who are kind of not okay with it, but seem to not be as impacted by it because in their world, they've never had these things. And I've heard many many people in my community say, anything that we were given along the way was great, and we were gracious to take it and run with it. And I get that. I get that way of thinking. I do. But I'm going to go a step further and say we all should just be at base level, right? Human beings, level. No one human being greater or better or more important than another. Right? And that's not just a pie in the sky idea or philosophy. That is what it should be. That is what religion teaches. That is what is at the core of, the golden rule. Again, remember when you were in school? I was constantly taught and told, you don't have to like everyone, you don't have to be friends with everyone, but you do have to get along. And you do have to be able to cohabitate in one space together. And we're not doing that. We have a government that was elected to just cause harm. And I know that on the campaign trail, they told you they were going to be doing that. And I know that many of you were okay with that. And I think you were okay with it because of the lies that you were hearing. We're not groomers. We're not out to hurt kids. I'm not out to go into a bathroom and take advantage or hurt women. We're not out to be in sports so that we can be better than the other people that we're playing with, than our teammates or the people we're competing with. You know what we're trying to do on a daily basis? Exist. That's it. Just like you. We're just trying to live. I'm just trying to be with my family. I'm just trying to make the world better. I'm just trying to make sure that I leave to the generations after me what the generations before me did. Isn't that what we're supposed to all be doing? Isn't that part of this grand experiment called democracy? So I am imploring you, as a human being talking to another human being, no labels, no Republican, no Democrat, no intersex, no trans, no cisgender, no labels, human being to human being. How can you be okay with the government telling a certain group of people they don't deserve to exist? How can that be okay? You shouldn't be okay with that. You shouldn't support that. And I have to believe that most of you deep down really don't want that or don't think that should be happening. And if you do, I would love to set up a time where I could sit in a theater or somewhere and have you each come up to me and tell me to my face, I don't deserve to exist. I would do that because I really want to see people be able to do that. Look me right in the eye and tell me I don't deserve to exist. That I am so frightening, that I am such a threat, that you feel I should be eradicated, that you feel I deserve less than you, that you feel I should not have any legal protections, that I should not be able to go through life presenting as who I am, that I should have my passport, my driver's license, and all these things show something that I'm not. You want me to have an M on my passport? I'm not an M. I'm an F. Or for most people that are intersex that don't necessarily align with one gender or another or non-binary, they just want an X. They just don't want you to have to even focus on that gender part because it's a construct. You have to know that. It's a construct. Again, taking away all the labels, taking away all the descriptors, all the little check boxes. What are we at our very essence? We're human beings. Human to human. So I, again, am reaching out to you as human beings and saying, don't do this. Please don't do this. Because there are real human beings that are being hurt by this in ways that you can't even begin to imagine. We are losing jobs. We are losing our homes. If we haven't already lost our families, we might be losing our families. Some of us are losing the will to live and to go and soldier on each and every day. We lose protections in a hospital. We lose protections in our housing if we're living in an apartment or a condo. We are at risk if we go to another country where that country does not believe in kind of progressive ideals and understand what intersex and trans and non-binary people are. We're at risk now because we have to now basically send off a red flag anytime we travel because our gender markers don't align. So you're putting us at risk for traveling and going other places. Do you really want that? You really think that another human being that has never hurt you, that has never done one thing to hurt you, deserves that treatment? You believe that? You really do. I don't think you do. I don't. I think we have all been victims of a larger entity at play that has manufactured a lot of things. And I think if we just talk, we can make a lot of progress and we can start repairing things. Don't let them win. Don't let the government win. Don't let Elon Musk and these corporations win. In their world, I have to believe they would be more than okay with basically just a bunch of white males, for the most part. Women are good every once in a while, to kind of boss around and pick on and be able to be misogynistic with. They would be totally fine living in their ivory towers, looking down at their world, and even though it would all be just barren, they would be fine with that because they only care about themselves. They only care about where the next billion is coming from. I mean, don't you reach a point where enough money is enough? What do you do with more? When you already control everything else, what do you do? They get bored. That's what it is. They get bored. And you know what they do when they get bored? They make the lives difficult for those that don't have what they have. You know who's not hurting for eggs and groceries right now? All of them. Do you know who's not worried about if they have a job tomorrow? Do you know who's not worried about being able to pay bills? Being able to afford their house? Do you know who's not worried about if there legitimately was a war or any kind of destruction or chaos in our country? Do you know why they're not worried? Because they're all fine. They have plans or they have money and they live in these worlds where they think money can just buy them everything. They don't care about you. And that's hard. That's sad, right? No one wants to hear that. But I'm telling you, as a person that has been hurt by many, many people before, I do care about you. I care about all of you. I am an empathetic, passionate, emotional, kind person. And I'm not telling you that I'm some person to be revered or some model or anything. I'm just telling you that I do deserve to be respected. I do deserve kindness. And I do deserve to be heard and listened to in a very respectful way. And I'm prepared to do the same for you. I want us to have a discussion, human being to human being, and figure out how we can make the world better. And I think if we all did that, we would start to realize, hey, there's power in numbers. There's strength in numbers. There's safety in numbers. When the people are outraged collectively, and there's many of them, they can move mountains. You've already seen that. When we do act out and speak up, we have been able to get this Trump White House to somehow shockingly reverse course on certain things. So when we are loud enough, when we push back enough, we make them listen. They only have power if we give them power. And if we're all just complacent, if we're all tuning out, if we're all saying, fuck it, I'm not going to listen to the news anymore. Or if we all say, I'm only going to stay in my little echo chamber, in my little silo, and just kind of keep getting, on repetition, the news stories and same personalities I see time and time again, we're all losing then. We're all losing. That's what they want. And so far, they're winning. And when I say they, I mean our government, writ large, both parties, everyone at the top. And then all these corporations, all these businesses, all the billionaires and millionaires that benefit from us being fractured. And they are benefiting. They are. And you've seen the TV shows, you've seen the movies. I mean, yes, some of that is obviously dramatized, but for the most part, when you see like a Succession and you see the family, kind of laughing at the chaos they're creating and kind of taking glee and taking kind of, celebration in the chaos they're causing, that's what they're doing. Like, you don't think Elon Musk goes home every day just being like, we fucked them over again. This is great. So why give them that power anymore? Why give them the ability to fracture us anymore and split us up anymore? And then if you aren't willing to meet me there, meet me at the fact that no human being should be rooting for or, endorsing and pulling for another group of human beings to be treated less than. If you can't meet with me to see where we can agree, that's fine. I don't think everyone on my side could do that too. So I get that. But at the very least, you should be able to say, no human being on this earth deserves less than me. I mean, again, I know that most conservatives are religious folk, right? You're Christians. And I respect that. I do. I am not. I used to say I was more atheist, but now I'm kind of, figuring out that, especially as I get older, and I do like the idea of believing in something greater than you. And in a way I do. But let's just cut down to it and say your religion tells you that you are supposed to respect everyone and you are supposed to feel that everyone is deserving of everything you are. And you're supposed to show compassion and kindness. And I see that everyone does that, like I said. So I'm asking you to do that now. I'm asking you to do that for the immigrants. I'm asking you to do that for the migrants. I'm asking you to do that for the LGBTQ community. I am asking you to do that for anyone who is being marginalized at this given moment, not to mention the many, many years of marginalizing and making feel less than people of color, the indigenous community. Like, sadly, the fabric of our country and our democracy is one where we have kind of moved on by walking on the backs of people and making people feel less than. And that's got to end. We're seeing it now. We're seeing how all that treatment and all of that bluster of politicians and people in power finding enemies or finding groups of people to kind of, elevate us on the backs of them and thereby hurting them and making them feel not human. We have a long history of that, unfortunately. And that's true of this entire world. And I don't know that that's ever going to go away. In a perfect world, it would. And believe me, I would love a perfect world. But at the very least, what we can do is we can come together and we can say, at our base, at this one point, at this one intersection, we must all agree that no human being should be treated less than. And if you believe that, then I feel sorry for you. I really do. And I feel bad for you that somewhere in your development or somewhere along your life, you believe that you were entitled to something more than someone else. I'm sorry. And no amount of talking is ever going to change that. So again, I know I'm talking to a certain audience right now, and that's fine. They always say that even if one person, speaks out and one person changes and one person is impacted, then you can move mountains. And that's what I'm trying to do. And I'll tell you why I'm trying to do it. Because it looks really scary. It looks, when you see the White House deciding what media can be involved, it looks like they're trying to get rid of the Fourth Estate. When you see an entire group of people getting erased from history and made to feel less than, and you start to look at history and instances of where this has happened before, you don't have to look very far than to look in Nazi Germany. And I don't want to be hyperbolic, and I don't want to necessarily go on this huge tangent, but I'm just showing you that many of us are afraid because we're seeing it played out. I'm sure you've heard the saying, those who don't know their history are doomed to repeat it. Well, to those of us that know the history, we're starting to see it. And we're starting to get louder and louder. And we're starting to call attention to this. And we're not being hyperbolic. I don't think we're being overdramatic. I think we're trying to get everyone to pay attention. And that's tough to do when you have social media, when you have people just constantly in their phones, and when you have the ability to detach. And again, I do think all of that is purposeful. They know what's happening. They can see it. And I think in some way, shape, or form, they kind of planned it to be like this. This is not something that happened overnight. This was a long form plan and strategy that has been kind of mapped out and worked upon for many, many, many years, decades even. And the stars are aligning exactly the way that they had intended it to be. And you have to ask yourself, how is that? Well, because they're in power. When you're in control of the game, as Hunger Games has taught us, when you're in control of the game, you can manufacture what happens. If you've listened to this podcast before, you know I'm a huge fan of Traitors. I love the show, love the game, love the strategy. And you know who's in full control of that game? Full control? The producers, the game makers. And then they watch the players, the cast, carry out the game. And when they see the game going one direction, they can intervene at any given time in small ways, large ways, whatever, to try to get things to go back the way that they want it to. That's what our government has done. Our government has sat there and done what they're doing, and then they look at all of us and they go, oh, you know what? In order for this to happen down the road, we need this to happen. We need social media happen. We need everyone to kind of become isolated. We need there to not be community and strength and numbers. Because it's easier to control people when they're all individuals and when they're separated and when they're only listening to little certain chambers and groups of people. So it's all a plan. And if we continue to feed into that plan, we're the ones that are going to continue to get fucked. And right now I'm speaking out and I'm scared and I'm furious and I'm angry because right now it's directly affecting me and my community. And just like all of you, when you were pissed and saying Joe Biden wasn't there for you and the Democrats were letting you down and you know, we didn't experience that perhaps, or not all of us did. I would dare say that not everyone in your own party experienced that. But you deserve to feel that way, and you deserve to voice your concern, and you deserve to do something about that. And so that's what I'm doing. I am exercising my right as an American citizen to speak out and say, you're hurting me. You're hurting my community. And in turn, you're hurting my family, and you're hurting my friends. And then whether you want to believe it or not, you're hurting society, because this discourse is not good on any level. And if you think that all of this is fun and what Trump is doing in terms of like art and getting rid of drag shows, if you think all of that doesn't have a cost to you and won't affect you, you're wrong. Because we're the artists. We're the ones creating entertainment. We're the ones that make the world look better and feel better and have a great aesthetic. And when the artists are hurting, society is hurt. There's a correlation that can go to the dawn of time. Just look at how storytelling and art aligns with society and civilizations. Art has been there forever. Storytellers have been there forever. So when you come after a community like my community, the LGBTQ community, who are predominantly creative people, artists, we're very empathetic, emotional people. We love to go through the world and share our passion, share our art, share our talents. We like to perform for an audience. We like to present our craft to an audience. We love to have a give and take relationship. When you silence that, and when you eradicate that, it will affect you. And it will have a very chilling effect. So let's get back on track. Please. I'm calling this episode my Come to Jesus episode. And I don't mean to use that in a blasphemous way. I truly don't. I am calling out the alarm. Shit is happening, and it's very scary, and it's very hard to keep up with all of it. And again, I think that's part of the plan. Throw so much at you that you can't pay attention. And then you only hear the things that you want to hear, or the things that concern you, and you don't see the big picture things. So here's the big picture thing, and I am not making this up. I'm just telling you. The big picture is Donald Trump and the MAGA party. I'm not even going to say the Republican Party, the MAGA party, because it is a party at this point, want everyone to bend the knee to them. You remember when he first started campaigning for this election, and he would joke or seemingly joke about how he was going to pardon the J6 and how he gave them so much praise and remember had them perform the national anthem or whatever for his rallies. Many of you, and I saw many of you were not cool with that. Many of you saw what happened on that day and went, yeah, like, okay, maybe you disagreed with some of the facts, but at its core, you thought what that was wrong. And I'm sure that most of you thought what those people did was criminal and they needed to be held to account. And then the guy you elected, first day, one of the first acts was release those people. And from that day forward, what has that man or that party done for you? Truly. What happened to, on day one, I'm going to do da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. What happened to the price of eggs going down? What happened to your groceries being more affordable? What happened to gas prices going down? What happened to, here's one, President Biden was trying to implement that credit card companies could not charge any more than 10% interest on any of your credit card debt. And that presidency, that administration was also trying to wipe out medical debt. It was also trying to roll back college debt. Now, maybe in our democratic society, you maybe thought like, well, hey, I didn't go to college, so why did they get a handout? Because it all comes back. This country works because you put in and you get back. And if it doesn't work like that, you know whose fault it is? The government. Because they're in control of making that happen. And so again, I think most of our shared anger has to be directed at who is at fault. And who's truly at fault are these politicians. And one party versus another party is not going to make it happen. No way. We have to come together. We have to figure this out. We have to learn to be respectful to one another again. We have to learn and realize that a human being that you see that is hurting deserves all your love and respect, just like they would give it back to you. And if they don't, that's on them. But don't let that be what we are as a society. We're better than that. I believe all of you are better than that. I do. So the last thing I'm going to say is this, and this is to my community now. So different parts of this monologue were directed at different groups, if you will. My first part to the politicians. You need to do a better job, all of you. And I think most of you should be fired. And I think most of you need to move on with your life. You've benefited way too much from being career politicians. So that was the first group. The second group, the Republicans. Not the MAGA extremists, not even the MAGA party. You Republicans. Those of you who proudly voted for Reagan and Bush and supported Republican values. Even though you differ from my philosophies, I love the fact that we live in a country where you're allowed to think that way. I'm allowed to think that way. And at the end of the day, neither one of us is better than the other, is more important than the other. We need to just figure it out. And for a long time we did. And we need to get back to that. We need to get back to civility. We need to get back to understanding our history. And we need to get back to looking forward and not just one day at a time, long term. And in order to do that, we need to work together because we need to restructure and kind of clean house when it comes to our government. Most Democrats will tell you, we recognize there's inefficiencies, we recognize there's waste, we recognize there's corruption, and we want all of that gone just as much as you all. Truly. And we really have to remember, because we all do love this country and love what it stands for, those words, we the people, in order to form a more perfect union. We have to do this. It is our job. We are the only ones that can fix this. Do not look at your government to fix this. They can't. They won't. It will not happen. We have to fix this. And then my last part of this monologue is for my community. Trans, intersex, non-binary, lesbian, gay, bisexual, pansexual community. There's always been somewhat of a division, and I'm not someone who's been necessarily personally up close with the community as much as everyone else has. I recognize that. I'm 51 years of age, and for most of that time, while I knew the truth, I didn't let anyone else know it. And so because of that, I didn't necessarily ingratiate myself with the community. Was I an ally? Fuck yeah. I've been an ally for everyone. I marched at Black Lives Matter. I protested at the airport during the Muslim ban. I speak out for women's reproductive rights. I speak out for anyone that is being taken advantage of, hurt, or anyone that is being targeted. I speak out, always. And I don't take the time to figure out if this group of people's ideologies or philosophies are in line with mine. No, I speak out because a human being is being oppressed. And it is our job as human beings to speak out for them. And so, yes, I've always been an ally. And now that I am intimately into the community, I am out and I am public and everyone knows, I obviously am being more outspoken, and I am seeing how these things affect me very directly. They always affected me, but obviously, being now out, I see that. But I've always been aware that there was a divide in our community, that we were put together as an LGBTQ because it just was easier for everyone. And it just maybe kind of made sense. But as we know, there's a huge difference. Some of the community is about your sexual orientation. Who do you love? Who are you attracted to? And the other aspect of that, the part that deals with gender, is about who you are. I am a intersex trans female who happens to be a lesbian because I am a female and I love and am married to a woman. I am a lesbian. There are trans, intersex, non-binary people who are straight. And they are to be thought of as straight because, again, gender is one thing, sexual orientation is another. So it was just kind of easier for the world to put us together. And I've seen that there's been rifts, and I've seen that it's kind of been a very fractured relationship. Someone in the community kind of paralleled it to be like firemen and policemen and how, yeah, they both work for a city or a municipality, but they don't really get along. And they're just kind of put together because of their job or because of where they fall. And I see that, right? And I'm here to say, as someone who doesn't necessarily deserve to be putting this out, perhaps because I haven't been fighting the good fight for very long, but as someone who maybe from the outside can bring perspective, we need to get under one umbrella. And I believe, and I see a lot of youth pushing us in this way, that umbrella should be kind of a queer movement or a queer identifier. And that if we just kind of fall under that umbrella and not have to worry about going further with identifying ourselves and checking the boxes, there will be more strength in those numbers. I've seen a lot of people in my community, the trans, intersex, non-binary community, calling upon our, gay members and lesbian members and bisexual members to kind of speak out for us because, we're all hurting and we're all eventually going to be in line for these targets. I mean, if you're not paying attention, you have to know that many states are now passing bills on getting rid of same-sex marriage and nullifying all marriages that have been in place, that have been solid, that have spawned families and have changed lives for the better. They want to take that away. And it's just going to keep happening. And so it's us right now. It's the trans-binary, non-binary, intersex community. But eventually, and it already is starting, it will be you. And then it'll eventually be women. And then will eventually be so on and so on and so on. And so I'm begging, I am pleading. All of us come together. And we can agree to whatever we want to be called. I think it would just be easier to all be called the queer community. And that way, too, we pick up everyone that's basically, and this is what I'm getting to, not typical. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with people that feel they're typical. And then we're dealing with all the others that feel like, hey, I'm not like that. I'm not typical. I am different. I love my differences. I want to celebrate my differences. I want you to celebrate your differences. Let's do that as a large community then, where we all look out for one another. If the typical community is not going to look out for us because they feel somehow they're more powerful than us, or they feel that they have more rights to live and breathe and control us, then we, as the non-typical community, we need to get together. Because, and this will be very simple, the typical community, for the most part, largely, is white, cisgendered males. So if we as the non-typical community, i.e. everyone that is not white, cisgender males, bands together, that's a very powerful group that can then roll back, that can make sure that Roe v. Wade is never overturned again and becomes, enshrined forever. That equality rights become enshrined forever. That civil rights become enshrined forever. We shouldn't be sitting here saying like, oh, okay, my party's going to take care of me for 4 or 8 years, and then I have to worry about whether or not I'm going to have rights when the next party comes in and when the next presidency starts. Like, how can people live like that? You can't. It's very disruptive if you think every 4 to 8 years, your life and the laws and everything that you're trying to have in your life is now going to be just up in ashes, and you're now going to have to start basically all over again. Like, no one can live like that. And as a society, we can't evolve like that. So we have to change all of this, and we have to change it finally once and for all. Never going back. Because if we don't do it now, I don't see how we're ever going to be able to do it again. Because again, if we don't act, the government and what they're doing in terms of separating us and polarizing us, it's just going to continue. Until, like I said, it's going to be really hard to ever come back to anything even remotely looking like normalcy again. If they destroy the government the way that they're doing it now, and that just compounds and keeps happening, you're never going to be able to replace it. You're never going to be able to repair it. And it's going to be a fucking free for all. You don't have to be a writer or an author to figure out how this story ends. It's all there. It's very obvious. And it's not just imagining what will happen. It is literally looking at the steps. A to B, B to C, C to D, all spells out, we all lose. End of story. Think about it. We are a perfect system of chains, and we are linked together by one common bond, humanity. That's the only thing separating us from everyone else, is that we are human beings. And when I say everyone else, all the other species, all the other animals, that's what makes us the apex alpha predator, right? Is that we are human beings, and we can operate and think on a whole nother plane. And if you don't think the threat from AI is real, if you don't think the threat of an oligarchy is real, if you don't think the threat of other countries looking at our dysfunction and saying now's the time to take over America is real, then you need to wake up and we need to have a discussion. And again, I'm willing to have that discussion because all of that is real, and all of that is in play. And it's not fear mongering, and it's not just, being hyperbolic no, that's all real. It's all there. And so again, this last part of this monologue, I am reaching out to my queer community, and I'm saying we all must band together. And then on top of that, if you are typical and you are an ally of the queer community, we need you to speak out. We need you to use your social media platforms. We need you to use every possible outlet available to you to speak out. And to let the world know that you're not okay with anyone on your watch and in your space be treated less than you. It's not even a trans, non-binary, intersex issue. It's a human issue. It's the government saying that a certain group of human beings that you live amongst and share this space with don't deserve what you deserve. And they're even saying to you, you don't even deserve everything that you've been deserving. We're going to take some of those things back from you as well. So you can't be okay with that. And then therefore you can't be okay with the fact that it's happening to people like me. Because I don't deserve that. My family doesn't deserve that. Millions of people don't deserve that. And the reason why I'm really concerned and want us to become a larger community is because I keep hearing, well, you're only talking about 1% of the population that identifies trans, binary, non-binary, intersex. And that's what scares me. Yeah, I know we don't have the numbers. I think that's what kind of makes us extraordinary in reality. But we do have the numbers if we're a queer community. So I think that's the answer. And again, if only one person is motivated by this to make a change, then I was a success. And I'm glad I did this. Because right now, I have to be honest with you, I'm sitting here feeling like I just got done preaching for an hour into the night and no one's going to hear this. But I do know I have fans. I do know I have listeners. And I do know I have people that love me and care about me. And so I am begging you, even if it's the small percentage that do know me and listen to this podcast on a regular basis, please speak out. Please figure out what you can do to make people in your world listen and understand that people like me, we're not a threat. We're not out to hurt anyone. We are honestly just trying to live. I am just trying to exist, just like all of you. And I don't deserve to have a government that makes that more difficult for me and my fellow human beings. We don't deserve that. And we can protest and we will protest, and we can rally and we will rally, and we can shout and we can call it out. But if no one is there to help us, if the government feels like it's only 1%, so who cares? Fuck them. Then no one feels bad about it. And then we just drift off and we get erased. I'll say it like this. We have animals that have become extinct because people were there to try to call attention to them, and not enough people paid attention, and people were selfish and they did what they did, and we erased whole species of animals. And there are many in my community that feel that's exactly what's happening right now. We're being erased from history books. We're being erased from even existing. They're tearing us down to be what they want us to be, taking our identity, taking our humanity, taking our spirit, and just stepping on us. And they're making it so that we can't even move within our safe zones. I read people want to move to a blue state or move to another country. Well, when your visa or passport won't match up, and they know that because they've made it so that it's like that, you're fucked. Or they're making it so that if God forbid something happens to you and you have kids, they don't get what they're entitled to now because you didn't exist. Or if you're in a hospital and your partner or your spouse or your lover needs to make a very difficult decision about end of life, they're now not able to because you don't exist and your marriage didn't exist. That's what your government is doing. Are you okay with that? I hope not. We're all hurting. And we can sit here every day and complain about it and go on social media and vent and repost news stories and that's all great. And believe me, I am loving being on TikTok. I really am. I've only been on for 2 weeks and I've already had more affirmation and more graciousness and friendliness than I've ever seen before. So I think the world in TikTok land is very beautiful. I really do. But I also recognize, because I'm old enough and I, observe, I also recognize that on that algorithm and as I flick through, I'm only seeing what I want to see. Because the second it shows me something that I don't want to see, I get rid of it. I block it. So I know that I'm even guilty of just staying in my little echo chamber and my little silo. And that was one of the reasons I started this podcast, was so I could have an outlet and hopefully reach everyone. And so here's my call to action. Allies, those of you that are out there that have someone in your life that is being persecuted right now, speak out and don't stop. Speak out. Hold your politicians to account. Hold the people in your world to account. Make them answer to you. As someone who has a loved one that's being disenfranchised and marginalized, make them answer to you how that is acceptable. Make them answer to you how it is okay for you to see your friends, family, and loved ones hurting on a daily basis and no one does anything about it. Make them answer to you. We need that. And then, call of action to all you Republicans out there. Let's talk. Let's figure out where we do agree. Let's figure out how we're going to make things better for all of us. Let's get back to where we were before. And it wasn't great. Again, I know it wasn't great. But it certainly was working. And it can continue to work if we want it to. And then my call to action to the politicians. If you truly value your job and you care about your duty to serving the people and that oath that you took, to the Democrats, you will speak out more. You will not do politics as usual because that's not going to work. They have already shown you they don't respect any of it. They have no respect for it. They have no compassion. They don't care about how politics works, how the government works, procedures. They don't give a fuck. So why do you? It's like that saying, you go to a fight, they have guns and you have candles or rope, like, because you thought it was going to be a civil fair fight. It's not a fair fight. It's not a fair fight. And I can tell you that most of the Democrats that I know and I've talked to and I've seen, they will not hold it against you if you drop an F-bomb and if you start to get angry. That's what we want to see. And to the Republican politicians, you think it's really easy to just sit there and be like, oh, I'm just going to destroy some human beings today. I'm just going to hurt people that live in my state, that maybe voted for me or that maybe have friends and family that I am hurting directly by the decisions I am making. And I implore you, especially as you think about this Title IX vote, you senators, I implore you to remember that these are human beings, real, honest to God, living, breathing human beings that you are talking about. And then you are talking about making their lives even more difficult. And I just hope that if you are a God-fearing person, you know that you're going to have to answer to that God. I mean, that's about the only thing I can tell myself to comfort myself. And a lot of times it works. A lot of the times I take stock in knowing that I can look in the mirror every single day and be proud of what I see and know that I have never hurt anyone intentionally. And I've always been true to who I was, and I've always had integrity, morality, and I've always been respectful. And I've made mistakes along the way. We all have. But it feels good to be able to go to bed each night knowing that I'm a good person and I've done good things, and I'll continue to do good things. So for some of you, I wonder how you're even able to go to bed each night, how you're able to live with yourselves, because you made a bargain with the devil many, many moons ago, and you're now just waiting to cash it in. And for some of you, I think you can be saved still. I think you can do the right thing, and I'm hoping you do the right thing. I know I called my Republican senators and congressmen today to tell them to think of the human beings they're hurting and to think of this as a human issue, not a trans, non-binary, intersex issue, not a trans athlete's issue, a human issue. So that's it for this week. And again, if you made it through this episode, God love you. I apologize, but I couldn't go another week without really putting it all out there and by really raising the alarm and saying, like, enough is enough. Enough is enough. I shouldn't have to sit here with my wife and figure out what happens if I hear a police helicopter coming over my house and my fear goes to, oh shit, did they call out the guards to get us? Like, that's honestly where my head goes right now because of everything that's happening. How is that fair? How is it fair that I need to think about, like, in worst case scenario, where can I go to be safe? Where do I have to go to be safe? And we're not just talking about going into a shelter to dodge a tornado here. We're talking about how to make it so that I can still be a person and still feel human and still live. Because if my country doesn't afford me that opportunity, I do deserve to go somewhere. But what if I don't have money? Or what if my passport is invalid? I mean, most of us that are thinking about seriously having to relocate, it's the last thing we want. I'm proud to be an American. I really am. I do love my country. And I do want to have a life here. I want a life here so badly that I want to leave a legacy here. I want to be known as a good American that made things better for her fellow Americans. I've even thought of possibly running for office and giving back. And everyone that's worked at the federal government level, in our government, that's what they were there for. Do you think this is a job that pays well or takes care of its people really well? No. So every federal employee that the Republican Party, or the MAGA Party specifically, sorry, not the Republican Party, we'll again call it the MAGA Party. Every single federal employee that they've gotten rid of, that for the weeks leading up to that, they called parasites and they called, disposable. Those people were giving back to their country. They were serving their country. Scientists, analysts, very smart, educated people that were keeping the wheels of our country moving so that we all were safe, so that we had safe food, safe water, so we didn't get the goddamn bird flu. That party called those people parasites and said they were useless and they were a drain. And all of those people are human beings. And all of those people had families. And all of those people are now struggling. And all of those people now feel that the government they worked for and gave so much of their time for and their life for and their blood and sweat and tears for has now let them down. How can you be happy about that? How can you be okay with that? I know if any of you lost your jobs tomorrow, there's not a human being that would not feel empathy or sympathy for you. No one wants to see another human being struggle. At least, again, the majority of us. And I'm speaking to the majority. And I recognize I'm speaking to the majority, and it's the majority, it's the large percentage of us that can make this better, that can fix this. It's not one party. It's not one group. It's not one marginalized community fighting hard, because we will fight hard, believe me, but we need help. So this is a call to action to come together and to do this together to make things better. Thank you for listening to my podcast. I thank you for your support and for your encouragement on a daily basis. Believe me, I don't ever feel like I'm doing this alone, but I do feel like I'm doing this without a large group of people supporting me, and I want that to change for all of us. So at this time, I always bid you adieu. And I tell you that I will see you next week, which I will, with an all new episode, with a guest. Everything will be back on track, I promise. And so I'll end it, as I always end every week, with be sure to take care of each other. Be sure to take care of yourselves. And please, please, figure out how to lead with love, because that is the answer. Loving your fellow humans. You don't have to like, you don't have to, fawn over, you don't have to be best pals, but you do have to show love to your fellow human beings. That's what this all is about. And if you do that, you get it back in spades. All right, I've said enough. Thank you, everyone. Truly, it means the world to me. And I'll see you next week on another episode of No Fucks Left. Take care. No Fucks Left is a presentation of Transplendent Media. The host and creator is Landyn Shaw. Logo and graphic design by Wally Spence. Our intern and project manager is Ryan Balmer. If you'd like to interact or connect with the show, be sure to visit our website at nofucksleftpod.com. That's nofucksleftpod.com. As always, you can always click on any of the links in the program notes to find out more information about the show, Landyn, and our guests. Thanks.
I have no fucks left. No, no. I have no fucks, right? Oh, oh. I have no fucks left. No, no. So fuck off. I'm busy. Bye, bye. Piss off. Not sorry. Don't cry.